Hello, 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 hello. How is everyone? Hope everyone is doing well. This is Willie Cartwright with From Save to Sane, the first podcast. I'm saying to Sane, from Save to Sane in 2026. So happy New Year to all of you out there. Happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. But it is a new year, so happy New Year. Glad to have all of you with us today. Send me a message in the chat. Let me know that you're here. Say hello. Hope all is well with everyone out there. And again, we are happy to be back in 2026. And if I didn't say so, happy holidays to those of you who celebrated whatever holidays this past month or so. So glad to be back. Um, let's see. I always begin by saying thank you to a couple of people. Taisha Essick. I hope that she's out there. I hope she's doing well with her family. But want to say thank you to her. I'm always appreciative of her and all the things that she's done to help push this program forward and actually to get us started. Secondly, would like to say thank you to my dear wife, Ms. Cartwright Salima. Thank you for all the stuff you do behind the scenes and the support that you give me. Certainly appreciate it and appreciate all of you. Christine, what's going on? Christine Williams, thank you. Greetings from Texas. All right. So I hope that you are doing well. Thank you for being here. Certainly appreciate it. Like I said, this is our first podcast for the year 2026, and we hope to make this an even better year. Couple of things. Let me make sure I promote the book, my book. Those of you who have not picked it up and want to pick it up, From Saved to Sane, My Journey Away from Christianity, Why Christianity Has Been Detrimental to the African American Community, Willie O. Cartwright. This is available on Amazon, or you can email me. My email is in the chat. You can email me with your information and let me know that you're interested. We can send you out a signed copy. 19.99 is the price. We'll send you out a signed copy. I think Christine purchased the book. Yeah, I think Christine purchased the book. So we certainly appreciate that. What's going on, Sharon? Glad to have you. Glad to have everyone with us again. So thank you so much out there. Yeah, so we did those two things. So let's see. So today's topic, anytime I come up with a topic, I'll often try to give you the background as to why we're discussing that particular topic. Today's topic, fear of hell and religious trauma, the reasoning behind it is sort of twofold. Number one, I think is extremely important. When I started my journey, my deconversion in 2015, the biggest obstacle that I had to overcome was the fear of hell. The fear that I was going to die and that my soul was going to spend eternity in this burning hell that was vividly and grotesquely described to me in my childhood, creating some trauma. But yeah, and so that was the biggest thing. And I know with people at the time that I started my deconversion, when I mentioned to my friends and family that I was no longer a believer, one of the first questions, if not the first question that many of them asked, was about my soul burning in hell, so forth and so on. Those of you who have had any kind of conversations with believers who are attempting to either convert you or bring you back, the main point that many of them make is that you're going to burn in hell. And so, for those of you who are embarking on this journey, who started this journey, or who've already, for the most part, said, I'm no longer religious, I'm no longer a Christian, even those of you who may be in the realm of being an agnostic or an atheist like I am now, there are still worries and concerns at times about hell. Well, for some of us, for many of us. And so I think that I tell most people who talk to me about my journey and helping them with their journey is that overcoming hell, the fear of hell, was the absolutely first thing that I had to come to grips with. And you do that, and I did that by researching the origins of hell, where hell came from, and why it's important in the faith that hell is this place that that is frequently talked about. Hell is sort of a linchpin in the foundation of the faith. It is the glue that holds many of us in the faith. And I'm not just saying that just out of emotion or from my own opinion. I'm saying that because I think that it is fact. What's going on? Lotto 1109, Surin Lotto, I think I'm pronouncing that right, 1109. Peace. Glad to have you here with us today while we discuss fear of hell and religious trauma. And so that's the first part. So I think that it is extremely important that we discuss that and that I try to give you some things, some practical things that can help you. And so those of you who are deconverting, who are part of this journey, who are thinking about it, who have questions about it, hell is going to be that big elephant in the room that you need to learn how to get over, get around, get through, and so that you can continue your journey. And so that is extremely important. The second reason why this topic came up today is because recently I've gotten onto Threads. I don't know if those of you are familiar with Threads, but Threads is another social media platform. It's kind of like I would liken it to um, X, whatever, X, what X is now, yeah. Where you go and you make comments or whatever. What I have learned about Threads, though, is that Threads has more, for me, and what I've seen, Thread has more of an international flavor. There seem to be people from all over the world that's a part of Threads social media platform. And so I don't know how many of you are on Threads, but I'm on Threads. I've probably been on there a month or so, a month and a half. And so one of the things I've posted, again, stuff much like TikTok and X and even Facebook, I mentioned some things from time to time about religion. Threads, I'm probably going to keep that mostly about religion. I like the feedback and the interaction, even though it is a lot of people that, I mean, I think I had one um, a post that I made on Thread that received about 30,000 comments. And so it was about religion and not believing and all of that. Um, but so one of the questions that I asked recently, or one of the posts that I made recently on Threads, was a question, and the question went like this: outside of the fear of hell, why is it wrong for someone not to be a believer? Why is it so wrong for someone to be an atheist? And I says this specifically to Christians or believers. Outside of the fear of hell, why is it that what is wrong with being an atheist? And I didn't get much of a response as far as good answers. I got comments about Jesus being the way, being the only way, you saved and sin and all this other stuff, but I got nothing tangible. So that led me to believe and to understand that for a lot of people, I don't know the percentages, I haven't done the research on this, but I think for a lot of people, if it was not for the fear of going to hell, I don't know how many of those people would be true believers. So think about it. If you're not going to be punished and spend eternity in hell, or you're not going to get an opportunity to spend eternity in heaven, um, what is your rationale or your reasoning for being a believer? Right? It's really nothing because you don't get anything special while you're alive here on earth. And that's one of the beauties of the religion. All of the benefits, the benefits that you get from this faith and serving and worshiping this God figure, you can only receive those benefits after you die. And so, you will never know if you were successful or received those benefits. I'll never know. We'll never know. So it's very convenient. Uh, Religion is a very convenient thing. It sells you a product that we don't know if you're ever going to collect. You don't know if you're ever going to collect on, but yet it takes many of your resources, 10% of your income, your time, your energy, all of that, your emotions, your mental capacity, your intellect, all of that in exchange for a promise that you cannot receive until after you die. So it is a very ingenious business model. And it has worked, as we know, for centuries, and it continues to work. Um, what I find amazing is that at the level that it continues to be successful is rather amazing to me in the time and era of the internet, and when the information that we need is right at the tip of our fingers, that we can easily Google or use Chat GPT or some other source to get the information. And so I find it to be really amazing. And so yeah, so those are the two main reasons why this is the topic for today: fear of hell and religious trauma. And so we're going to discuss the fear of hell, the origins of hell, and why we should not fear hell. And then we're going to talk about some other religious trauma. And I think that this is personal to a lot of us who grew up in the church, who grew up in an environment that focused on religion. Our parents and our other relatives and grandparents and neighbors and everybody seem to center and focus on religion. And I think the trauma that we received, because all of us received it, generally speaking, and it was being given to us by everyone. It was being forced upon us, or we were victims and victimized by a lot of people close to us who we trusted. I think many of us saw it as something that was normal. But once you become an adult and you look back on it, and not every adult is able to see that. But once you're able to look back on it and you step away from the forest, as I say, outside of the forest, and you able to look at it, you can see it better. And so we're going to discuss some of those traumas. And I would advise all of us to take a look at these traumas, see if there are people close to us, especially younger people, who may be exhibiting some of the traits and the characteristics of suffering from some of these traumas. And maybe you, like I try to do, can talk to some of them to try to kind of get them through this stuff, or help them to recognize that a lot of this stuff is not normal. And so we're going to talk about some of this stuff. Let's see. Who else? Dewan, 1881. Peace, brother. Happy 2026 to you as well. Love that. Good to see you. And I don't know, you say UAG, I kind of missed that. But yeah, glad to have all of you here. So let's begin. So I often, and I said this earlier, hell is like the big elephant in the room. When you decide that you want to question your faith, even beginning with questioning your faith, hell sort of looms over your head. They tell you that questioning the faith is wrong, is a sin, that you should not do that. That this is the devil who is a resident of hell, that's causing you to do these things, right? And so that whole thing being held over your head, that you're going to die and spend eternity in this place with gnashing teeth and fire, that you're going to feel pain, but you're not going to be able to die. You're not going to be able to get away from the pain. There's no one there to give you water or liquids or whatever it is. And so you have this vivid imagery in your mind growing up as a kid. It is grotesque. It is, I believe in some form, it is child abuse, but it's these images that you get in your head. And so once this is instilled in you and indoctrinated in you over a period of time, over a period of years, not only by your parents, but it is supported by the community, the church, media, television, music, everything for the most part. And because it is so prevalent in everything that we do in our society, we're not aware of the harm that it's doing. And we begin to normalize it. We begin to really talk about hell like it's a real place. Well, let me help you out with that. The hell that we see, that we know now, the biblical version of the hell, is actually a sort of a 2nd century creation from the Mediterranean culture. That is where the origins of it came from. Those of you who may be familiar with the Bible, in the Old Testament, hell is not mentioned per se. There's a place called Sheol, and then there's another place, but Sheol has a number of definitions. One being a place where they take dead bodies. There's another word in the Old Testament that is for a place where they take trash or burn trash. But none of this is the hell that we came to know, or we came to learn about, especially in the New Testament. So for the Jews, the first 5 books of the Bible, that place hell that we see now isn't really mentioned. Sheol is mentioned 66 times in the Old Testament, with a variation of meanings. Um, so when we go back to the 2nd century from the Mediterranean culture, we learned that they had these different places and they had words, but none of it was really, it wasn't really applicable to what we originally saw in the Bible. And then we went on a little bit later, we got to things like Dante's Inferno, which is an allegoric poem about the 9 steps or the 9 places in hell. That's really is where we get our imagery from, our grotesque imagery, the burning, the firing, the people suffering, the very vivid, the colors, the red devil, all of that is where we really get our imagery from. And that is based on a poem from that. If we go to the New Testament, and we talk about people like Peter, who may have written about it, there was a lot of dreams or whatever that Peter wrote about it. So there isn't, again, hell as we know it today. The biblical version of hell that we know it today was something that was added much later. It is more of a cultural thing that sort of came along, but it stuck. It stuck. I'm sorry, it stuck. And so it became the image that we see when we talk about hell. It became the thing that we are afraid of. It is the thing that we are taught about as kids to avoid, and that we want to act right, um, in order so that we don't end up in this place. It's almost like when you're a child, you're told to act right so that you can receive gifts from Santa Claus on Christmas. When you are an adult, you are to act right so you can either go to heaven, or 3 or 2 or B, avoid hell. So again, religion can be like Christmas for adults, with the same premise, carrot and the stick. You act a certain way. This is your reward. You act. You don't act the way we want you to act. This is your punishment. It is a punitive punishment. And so we talk. And so that's where we are on how we got hell. And I would encourage all of you, especially those of you who are embarking on a journey of deconversion or have questions, do your research about hell. Because I know for me personally, it was one of the first and one of the more difficult things that I had to sort of navigate as I was on my deconversion path uh, early on. Again, I encourage all of you, if you have comments, if you're in the chats, leave a comment and we can talk about those things. If you have a question about it, we can talk about them as well. If you agree or disagree, that's fine. We can still discuss it. So yeah, so glad to have the comments that we do have in the chats. And so again, I think that is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing. Well, I found it for me. I don't know how it's been for some of you. Some of you can let me know how challenging that part of your deconversion was. For those of you who started off as believers or in the Christian faith, how challenging was it for you to get over, the existence of hell, before you can continue your deconversion journey? Now I understand and know that hell is something that is man-made, something that is a human constraint that we created, we being humanity created. It is a device that is used to make people act a certain way, and make people obedient, and make people fearful. And quite frankly, it's the glue that holds a lot of people into the faith. Because ask yourself, ask your friends, ask your religious friends, your Christian friends, if there was no hell and there was no heaven, would you be a Christian? Would you continue to worship this God? And if they're honest, I would suggest, I would posit that many of them would say no. because there is no earthly benefit from being a Christian. Now, when I pose this question on Threads, um, I would get the arbitrary and vague things like, well, because I'm in Christ, I have peace and serenity, and my. I said, well, that's not. I have the same thing, and I'm not in Christ. There are people who worship other gods who have peace and serenity. There are people who walk in nature who have peace and serenity. There are people who have good friends and a great relationship with a significant other who have peace and serenity. So that's not unique to religion or to your God or whatever. And so you can have that without God. As a matter of fact, we know that we have that without God. So, excuse me. I would encourage you to ask those people, those individuals, and see what kind of response you get from that. Um, Also, just one last thing: when we talk about show again in the Old Testament, 'cause these are the only hell type references that you get in the Old Testament. You don't get a hell reference; you get show. Show was not a place to punish sinners. There was no pain and no suffering in this show place, and also there was no joy or no celebration. So it was just sort of a mundane place where I guess soulless people went to spend eternity or whatever. Now, think about this, and we have to look at this from this standpoint. Um, if you look at this objectively, and you're not caught up in all of this, this is no different than any other mythology. This is no different from any other mythological religious teachings or stories that we heard. So if you are outside looking in and you hear creation stories from another religion, you hear eternal damnation stories from another religion. You're going to look, if you're not familiar with those religions, you're going to look at them like those stories are really odd. And so this is no different. If you've never been exposed to Christianity, this sounds very weird. This sounds very mythological because that's exactly what it is from that standpoint. And so we need to always keep that in mind. And so, yeah. So again, those of you who are struggling, who are starting your journey to deconvert, who might be in the middle of your deconversion journey, and you're having an issue with hell and whether or not hell exists, I encourage you to do your research about hell. Look at Sheol, Sheol in the Old Testament, Dante's Inferno. Do that research, find out how we got the imagery for hell that we have, and then go back and study religion in the 2nd century Mediterranean area. And as I tell people all the time, most of those early religions, including some of the Asian religions, all sort of started in the kind of the same general area, right? And so it would stand to reason that many of those Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, North African religions, what we now call the Middle East area as well, all borrowed from each other. Christianity is no different. Christianity started in the province of Judea, which at the time was a Roman occupied setting. It was sort of Northeast Africa, or what we would call the Middle East now, in that area. And they borrowed ideas, excuse me, and I use the word borrow lightly. They borrowed ideas from older existing religions and faith practices in the area. And so we know this for a fact. We know this from historians and anthropologists who study these things, archaeologists who study these things, and they know for a fact that this is where they came from. Even spiritual or religious historians who study the Bible and how the Bible came together and the religions, all of this, know that many of these ideas were borrowed. That's why you have the same archetype. This Jesus character is a archetype, savior archetype that is prevalent in many other religions. Many of those religions are much older than Christianity. There is no different. Born of a virgin, between a God and a human, died, was resurrected, had 12 followers, performed miracles. All of it is the same. All of it is the same with a slight variation or a slight twist that fits the particular culture. And so we know this for a fact. So yeah, so any comments about that? Any questions that anyone want to type in or share about that would certainly be appreciated. And thank you for that. If you have any comments, and we can discuss those. Um, and so if there isn't any, and we can always come back to it, we want to sort of shift gears now, and we want to talk about other traumas. Um, and I don't discuss these things lightly because they are extremely important. As I grew and evolved and matriculated into life as I got older, one of the things that I realized is that there were a lot of trauma and a lot of abuse in the community. And I'm not just not speaking about African American community, but in the community. And being a product of the Deep South, I think it was across the board. It wasn't just African American community. I knew and went to school with poor whites who endured the same sort of suffering and trauma that I did. And what we didn't realize at the time is that a lot of this suffering and abuse and trauma was either directly or indirectly related to the church. And so let me give you an example. I know there were many people who were physically abused, what we would say beatings or whoopings or whatever, myself included. And it was not just African Americans, but there were, poor whites and middle class whites who endured the same kind of physical abuse. And I call it physical abuse. There's a difference between punishing a child and beating a child. I received beatings. Well, I am 100% sure that if anyone that today's time that my mother would have gone to jail and I would have been in some juvenile facility. I mean not facility, I would have been in some some child care facility or whatever. But when you break it down and you talk to these people, one of the things that many of them would say is that they believe in corporal punishment because it was justified in the Bible. Spare the rod, spoil the child, whatever that verse is. That was oftentimes used as an excuse for corporal punishment. For us as African Americans, some of it also stemmed from slavery time, where your parents believed that if they needed to discipline you to the point that you would act right, because the slave owner, his discipline would result in death. And so you really had to learn this lesson the first time. So you got disciplined uh, punitively up until you felt like you wanted to die. And so we pushed that. We That was sort of a generational thing, right? I remember oftentimes hearing my mother, as she's beating me or after she beats me, this is so that you don't end up in jail, or so this is so that you don't end up getting stopped by the police and this happens. So I'm disciplining you now so that you don't do these things out in public. And so in her mind, unbeknownst to her, it was no different than the slave owner. If I don't beat you, the slave owner is going to get you, and the punishment is going to be much worse, which could lead to death. But in my mother's mind, I'm going to beat you, and the punishment need to be to the point where you don't do this anymore. Because if the police, quote unquote, the white man get a hold of you, it could be imprisonment or death. And this is the mindset that a lot of people in our community had. As I said before, the other side of that was that, okay, God says to don't spare the rod, or the child would be spoiled. And so it was common practice that all of us endured what we would call corporal punishment at the hands of our parents. And our parents gave permission to teachers and administrators, coaches to do the same. Again, it was acceptable. It was normalized because it was something that many of them believed that it was all right because of Bible scriptures and their interpretation of the Bible. Um, Secondly, I know a number of people, and those of you who are listening to this podcast may know some people as well who have been abused by members of the church, elders, pastors, deacons, protected members of the church. And this is even outside of the Catholic priest situation that's been going on for eternity. And so, if you were Catholic, and I often talk about how I only knew one Catholic in my community growing up, the Catholics had their stuff to deal with, and us in the Baptist community or the what are you was whatever denomination you were, we had to deal with our own stuff. And so when those pastors or deacons or elders or whatever they call themselves abused you, oftentimes it was whether it was physical abuse or sexual abuse, many of those individuals were protected because of their status, because of their title, because of the positions that they held, not only in the community, but more importantly within the church. And so those individuals who were abused at the hands of church elders and church clergy and church pastors and deacons, those individuals, for the most part, got away with that. And not only did they get away with it, many of you out there as kids, as young children growing up, especially if you were girls, you got blamed for what these elders or these older people did to you. Somehow you were wrong. Somehow your skirt was too short. Somehow you smiled and you flirted. You being 11 years old, 12 years old, somehow your smile or you being nice or your skirt being too short turned on this man to what a point he couldn't control himself. That is chauvinistic. That is misogyny. That is flat out abuse. But unfortunately, that has happened and continues to happen in a lot of our communities. And so all of this stuff that we talk about is part of the trauma that many of us received as victims, directly or indirectly related to the church. More direct, I think, trauma that came from the church is, as I said, as I talked about it earlier, is hell. Telling a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old that hell exists, and that if you don't do certain things or act a certain way, that you're going to end up hell, you're going to be burning forever, eternity, painful, no water. This imagery of people screaming and crying and all of that is a mental trauma. Imagine that idea in your head as a child. And on top of that, you're also told and is also reinforced that you are nothing, that you are worthless, and that you are a wretched, and that only God can save you. And so you grow up with this devolved self image of yourself, this horrible, degrading image of who you are as a person. You are a dust. You are nothing. And if you don't act right, you're going to end up in this place called hell. So imagine, just think about it, if you will, the pain and the anguish and the anxiety that many people grow up with because of the church. But again, we tend to normalize it. I am a believer that at some point, at some day, in this society, that we're going to declare at least religious extremists. People are extreme about religion, or religious fundamentalists, or people who are religious literate. Who take religion literally. I think at some point we're going to declare that to be a mental disease. Right now, it is not part of the DSM, the DSM-5, which I think is the most recent addition, which it's a manual that diagnoses or talks about all of the mental disorders. And so, unfortunately, it stands for it stands for Diagnostic um, and Statistical Manual on Mental Disorders. So it is not right now. It's classified as a mental disorder. However, many clinicians do treat religious trauma, and they treat it the same way they treat PTSD, and that is a clinical or scientific fact. Those who may know some people who specialize in treating individuals who have gone through religious trauma, and some of it could be as small as just the belief system and trying to get over the belief system, to extreme as there are cults who teach girls that sex is horrible, sex is bad, and there are bad people for wanting to have sex, which is a natural urge. They're made to take these celibacy vows. They are told that their only purpose in life is to have children and to serve their husbands. Um, and so that is an extreme version of it as well, and that they're not to get educated. There are many of these cults that frown on women reading, learning, or becoming educated because they believe that their sole purpose is to procreate and take care of the house and take care of the kids and be there for the man at his whim, whenever he wants. They're to be there. They are to be there to serve him. And this is not just an extreme version or an extreme cult. We see this today in the mainstream. We hear this from some of our political leaders, especially the far right political leaders who talk about this, sometimes overtly, but sometimes covertly, but oftentimes very overt about it. They frown on the fact that women are seeking education, want to learn. They frown on the fact that women are deciding that they don't necessarily want to get married. If they do, they want to get married on their own terms. They're frowning at the fact that women are deciding they don't want to have kids, or that couples, or that people, even men, adult men, are deciding that they don't want to have families. And so all of this is part of the whole system that they want us all to be under. If you decide that you don't want to have kids like I did, and my wife, we don't have kids, we should not be considered less of a person because we decided not to have kids. Um, and so yeah, and so again, this is part of the trauma. I've talked to people personally who've escaped from some of these extreme cults, and some of the stuff that they talk about, they go on. How do you make it feel about yourself? The way that you're physically treated, the mental abuse that goes on, and then once you're outside of it, you are excommunicated from the community. So there are extremes in that. Someone like me who grew up religious, who grew up in the South, who grew up in the 70s and 80s. Uh, excuse me. All of my friends and everyone I knew were and are religious people, extremely religious, extremely devout. Um, when I left and made it public that I was no longer a Christian, and even recently when I've accepted the term and labeled and informed people that I was now an atheist, I endured a form of excommunication. Not necessarily in the literal sense, but in the sense that some people, that I had that were friends of mine no longer talk to me, or unfriended me from social media. Um, I have friends who, when I do see them, I've been knowing them for 30, 40 years. They will make jokes about me not being a believer anymore. And that's on the lighter side, right? So I don't pretend to be like, oh God, I'm just devastated because these people are not. First of all, if you know my personality, it's not that big of a concern to me at all whatsoever. But I acknowledge it and I make note of it, because I experience these things, and then I need to understand how these things happen and work. So when I'm working with other people as an advocate, I can there's some empathy there because I've gone through some of it. But then on the other end, the far end, there are people who actually were in these cult-like communities that endured actual, real, literal excommunication, meaning that your family, I will no longer talk to you. Once you leave, you're gone. We don't know you. You're excommunicated from the family. You're excommunicated from the community. all of your belongings, anything you had, anything that you had claimed to, you no longer have that. There are even been people who've left. In the case of adults who may have had kids, either they left and their kids stayed. In the case of younger people, they left, but their parents stayed, and they haven't had communications with those loved ones since they left the compound or the code or whatever. And so that is an extreme version of it, but it happens. It happens more often than you think. Again, this is part of the trauma that goes along. We talked about the sexual abuse, especially in these situations, in these cults, and these compounds where people are in, young girls who are made to marry and consummate with these older men who they are not at all attracted to, for the sole purpose of bearing kids for these old men. Just think about how disgusting that is, but it's part of the culture of these cults and that kind of abuse that they endure. And so when these people do escape, when these people do get out, one of the issues that they have is trying to socialize with other people, right? Because they've never been around people that were not in their cult, right? And the real world outside of their compound or their cult, the real world is completely different. And so having to navigate those differences and those changes, how to deal with it socially, you're also dealing with the mental aspect of being physical and sexually abused. You're also dealing with not being able to be in contact with people that you grew up with, your family members, and all of that. And so it is a difficult transition that one make. Um, for believers out there who think that those of us who leave faith, that it is an easy decision and that it is an easy process, it is not at all, because of all the things that we give up, all the things that were comforting to us. We give those things up in the pursuit of truth and being able to live authentically who we are. And so that to me is the trade off for it. Um, Before I wrap up, I want to open it up for any comments or any questions that anyone may have. I would encourage you that if you're going through any of these traumas, whether it's the physical abuse, um, whether it is the mental abuse, the sexual abuse, misogyny, feeling that you are made to be submissive or you are a subjugated object, any of that, there are organizations out there that you can reach out to that deal with this. There are professionals who are outside of any faith constraints that you can reach out to that can help you. I did a presentation a few years ago for an organization called the Conference on Religious Trauma. I think they're out of Canada. It's Court, CORT. Please look that up. I think she does work here in the States as well, the lady who runs it and organizes it. But there are a lot of virtual things that you can see and gravitate to and subscribe to that can really help you as well. And she may be able to give you some information. I think the lady who runs, her name is Janice Siebel, I think. You can tell her that Willie Cartwright referred you. And I spoke at her conference a couple of years ago. But it's Conference on Religious Trauma. This is not the only organization, but this is one of the organizations I am very, very familiar with. And so I would just encourage all of you out there that if you are experiencing this, if you have religious trauma or experience religious trauma, or if you're trying to deconvert and you're having a hard time dealing with it, please reach out to any organization that's out there. You can reach out to me. My email address is there. If you need to get professional help, I will help you find some professional help. Wherever you are, I will do the research. I will do the legwork to try to find an organization for you to connect to or professional for you to connect to. In the meantime, we can talk. I can just share with you my experiences over the last 11 years now, what I've done and what I've had to do to sort of navigate all of that. And so that's where I am on this. That's who I am, advocate, a person hopefully to provide some resources for those of us out there. Um, this is what I do. One of the questions that I get oftentimes from naysayers or Christians who see me posting is, why do you always post about this if you don't believe that God is real, whatever. What is it about religion? You must be still involved. I said, no. I said, the deal is that religion has been and continues to be very harmful to people. Not everybody, and not everybody who's religious, but as a collective on both sides, collectively, the religion itself still continues to be harmful for a lot of people. And so I am in a position, fortunately, that I've navigated through that. I've evolved through all of that, and I'm in a position to where I can help people. And so, act as an advocate, some person who is also educated in this space, have physically gone through this space, and so I would be remiss if I did not offer my expertise or any resources or anything that I can do to help people. And so that's what I tell the naysayers, is that I am doing this because I am an advocate for those of us, for those people who are in this space who, for whatever reason, cannot come out or will not come out, or have an issue, or is just trying, as I said before, trying to navigate through this whole thing. And so I'm here to help. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination the absolute expert at this. I can certainly point you in the direction of people who have more experience, who have the actual clinical license for that part of it. I can certainly help you find and locate some of those people. I know that those of you who are in the Atlanta area listening, I know there was a lady, I cannot remember her name. She was a clinician, a professional, a PhD, that did counseling for individuals who were coming out of religion. I can, if you're interested, email me or send me a message, and I can try to get her information. I do know that she worked with the non-black believers and Mandisa Thomas. At a minimum, I can put you in contact with Mandisa. Her and I are good friends. Well, I should say we are friends. And I can put you in contact with her, and she can put you in contact with this professional. Um, and so, any other place I can help you do the research and maybe find a place if you're not in the Atlanta area. I'm no longer in the Atlanta area. I'm in the Vegas area, and we can certainly help you to find some people. So yeah, but that's pretty much it. What I have for today. I thank all of you for joining me for the first podcast of the year 2026. We'll continue to grow this channel and make it special. Invite your friends, invite your enemies, invite everybody. We're going to expand the topics. The topics are going to always be about religion or directly connected, but sometimes we may add some politics or some other stuff that is related as well, because religion is just not in a silo. It is expansive. It connects and touches all other parts of our life. And so we need to include all those things as we do these podcasts so that people are getting a full, enhanced version of what they need here. And so if there's not anything else, I certainly appreciate all of you. Dewan, 1881, Cyrilato, 1109, Sharon, Christine, any of you, and those of you who are out there who did not leave a comment, I certainly appreciate all of you. Those of you who may listen to this at a later time or a later day, I certainly appreciate you. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Stay safe, and we'll talk then.